There we go. And even though we've heard the Greek-sounding last name of Nicolas, they're actually both French. So it's going to be a battle between Frenchmen here. And we are going to see Nicolas starting. And, I mean, you can already almost tell 60 cards sitting there on his side of the field. A branded strategy of all times. How is he going to be able to convert here?
Just to, you know, make sure that you guys are aware, this is actually branded, actually without running a specific gimmick puppet monster. So, you know, we're going to see some good old back and forth gameplay potentially.
Yeah, Gabriel is not going to be in a nightmare here. But Nicolas not searching out the most powerful branded spell of all times. We're going for branded and high spirits. And actually, he's running as many branded and high spirits in his deck as he is branded fusion. So maybe he just likes this one more.
Yeah,
well,
that's very possible.
It's a good chance that he's just drawn it, right?
Fair. I mean, one thing I like about Branded and High Spirits is it does actually just play around the super popular Ash Blossom and Joy of Spring, and it kind of gets you there still. So I think Branded and High Spirits might just be his tech card, his way of playing around the meta this weekend, and this is the reason why he's A2 here so far.
I mean, he's got a lot of tech cards. He's got 60 cards.
He does have space for that, for sure.
I think that there's certain lines and combos that do allow you to fusion summon. Ooh, okay, we got a Baldrake coming down here.
Early on.
Baldrake is really good as well when paired with other bestials, which we can see during the playoff and just a lot of the meta adaptations that players have made to deal with the Snake Chimera match. You just play more and more hand traps, and the crossover versus Branded is actually really, really nice.
It really is. And Gabriel actually, and I think that is maybe the first time ever we've seen that, has decided to run even more Bestial Baldrakes in his main decks than Bestial Druid's Worms. Usually it was always more Druid's Worms, but there was Ash Blossom and Joy Spring on the branded fusion, so he did have that as well in his 60 card opening hand, but the Ash Blossom was there to answer it.
You only get 6 cards. You don't get 60.
Yeah?
That would be fun though, a 60 card opening hand.
Oh yeah, true. In his 60 card deck, never mind. Yeah, you're right.
He's running more Baldrakes than copies of Snake Eye Ash, which is
true. That's even more impressive.
If you play Grass, that's kind of a 60 card opening hand. Alright, so Guanganol is being summoned here to send. Might go for a Saronir here. Try and pivot over to some bestial plays.
Ooh, we just send the second Albion.
Yeah, it looks like we really want the end phase effect.
Ooh, polymerization! Oh, original polymerization, fusion summoning with the Agent Chain from hand, which is of course great because it will provide further value. But I think that was his last card in hand, right?
Well, there's going to be a few more to replace it, right? You're going to get a draw of Magnum the Reliever, and you're going to get the search of Edge Imp Chain.
So Magnum the Reliever is somewhat of a newish card. It's from Dune. What exactly does this offer us in branded?
It's just a sort of generic fusion monster you can go into. If you're running Polymerization, it gets you a draw if you return a fusion spell, and it also gets you a pop, I think, on the next turn if you return a fusion spell. So a little bit of everything.
It's interesting that he's incorporating the Edge Imp engine. That was sort of like, kind of like a standard in branded in the early period of time when it was being built, back when we had the Fairy Tale Snow as well being ran. But over time, it's kind of not really seen that much play, I feel like. Do you think it's a kind of standard piece of the branded engine nowadays?
I like it a lot. I think it provides so many different things. It just gives you more cards to work with in general. The deck also is usually going through some discards in their deck with, for example, Lubellion and so on. And there, I think it just raises the ceiling a little bit, and it helps you so much going second because it's just more cards to play through your opponent's field. Just activating Polymerization for a Guardian Chimera potentially, which then would not be able to be targeted, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting approach because we've seen a lot of the more newer branded decks be quite streamlined in their approach. They're very much focused on getting that puppet resolving on turn one.
Another polymerization here. Okay.
There we go.
Just cycling through as many fusions as possible. And in the end phase, we can get a... Ooh.
Oh, we're going to chain the effect of Magnum going after the Baldrake there.
Using the Libitum as a material here, I think we can bring back...
Can we bring back Magnum? Is that allowed? I don't know what you can actually target. I guess you can target Magnum.
Yeah, you can't bring back the Albion as it wasn't correctly fusion summoned. We can bring back the Magnum instead.
That looks pretty good, honestly. So unconventional for a branded deck, but that does develop quite nicely here because Gabriel, of course, still ended up using 2 cards from his hand there.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, why this Baldrake was played when it was.
That's a good point. I mean, he was making sure it would be banishing the Albion before the Cartesia could come to the field. So there must be some reasoning behind that. So I was thinking probably there's going to be another Bestial coming very shortly after, so that the on-field effect of Bordrake also is ready. But so far, Gabriel has not decided to summon that out, if there is one.
Yeah, so there was like no other Bestials, and like the Albion wasn't going to activate until the end phase. So I don't know, maybe he's playing some mind games with Nicolas.
And we are in the end phase now. As we said, branded in red with the Albion there. Anything else, though?
And the Cartesia. This is the sort of infinite branded you see where they get to add about 7 cards to the hand to the end phase.
But is this enough?
That's the problem, right? Like, if your branded fusion gets ashed, then you're in a situation where the plays become very weak, or you end up needing and requiring about 3 or 4 card combos to actually do anything relevant. You can see here that Nicolas has almost depleted all of his resources here, and what have we really ended on? A Karatas?
Yeah, that's
about
not so
it.
good. I mean, if you fusion with it, then you can summon a... Can you summon a Despia from your deck? Is that the one I'm thinking correctly?
I think it's only when your opponent...
Yeah, I think it's when your opponent outs it.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
Exactly. Okay, and Gabriel starts things off with Fiendsmith's Engraver. Of course, he is on the most popular deck this weekend. It is still the same deck, and I even believe the same list that he ran on Friday for the World Championship points playoff. And it brought him all the way here into the feature match with an 8-2 record. But be noted, if one of the players loses here, and one of them will have to lose usually, they will be most likely out of the tournament.
Yeah, 2 draws is a bit of an awkward score mathematically, but we are reaching the deepest parts of Swiss today, and this is where players are going to be thinking about their tiebreakers, potentially, you know, checking up on some of their older opponents from previous rounds, seeing how they're doing. For those of you unaware of how it works, if your opponents do perform well that end up defeating you, you get better tiebreakers. You know, if both of you are X2-1, for example, the players who defeated sort of the better opponents is going to be in a higher seed when it comes to the top cut spot. So this is where we're at. There's another round left after this, and it's getting close down to the wire.
Banishing the Grand Guignol there from the graveyard.
Do you ever check up on your opponent? I've never thought to like check how my opponents are doing a deal. I just
You're always doing XO, so you never
you just see what happens at the end of the tournament.
Yeah.
You know,
you've never been in a situation where you have to care, right?
Probably. And the way Gabriel is moving here, it almost seems like this isn't even a Snake Eye Fiendsmith deck. It rather looks like a Bestial Fiendsmith deck, to be honest, because we don't see any Snake Eye cards so far.
Well, this is great. If you can do a lot of things before committing to any Snake Eye cards, you can try and force out all of your opponent's interruptions.
Well, I'm just wondering that Gabriel brought down the Druid's Worm, basically using it as an extender of sorts. Did we use it on the branded in reds?
No, we got rid of the Grand Guignol from the graveyard. That would have been potentially able to banish itself.
Probably a bigger threat than the branded red right now, which I don't think even has a target, right?
Oh,
You might be right.
Libitum there.
Is there an ad libitum in there?
There is an ad libitum.
Okay,
yeah.
then that is actually a pretty good target even. To be fair, but let's see. Gabriel going through the graveyard. There we can see there's Fallen of Albas in there as well, which is of course a pretty good target too. So Gabriel would need to play around that branded and red there quite importantly. But maybe with the amount of Bestials that he's running, there's just another one waiting in hand, also ready to meet that branded and red. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
Yeah, potentially, as well as Gabriel does not appear to have opened to any kind of Snake Eye plays as of yet. The Fiendsmith cards can, of course, bridge you into that. So we'll see if he then decides to go for some sort of Beatrice Promethean line to retrieve Ash. But for now, we are just slowly trying to put together and assemble a field of monsters to force something out from Nicolas, perhaps, at this point.
Well, how do we like... Yeah, that could be a good point of interaction here, just using the Magnum, the Reliever, on the effect of the Requiem and the Graveyard, meaning destroying the Fiendsmith Engraver, and therefore both cards would just stay in the graveyard. Or like one card would stay in the graveyard and the other one would go to the graveyard with it.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? Because otherwise the Engraver can just threaten the Magnum, the Reliever.
Yeah, you're right.
Noticed as well, by the way, that Nicolas banished Branded Fusion on his turn from the Magnum the Reliever. I'm not sure if there was a polymerization at that point, but do you think that was Is there any way to retrieve Branded Fusion?
Oh, and there is another Bestial. Baldrake all day. That is perfect for this matchup. You wouldn't even need the Snake Eye cards if you can just play as many Bestials as Gabriel does against the Branded deck.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're doing too much with our Snake Eyes yet. We are just playing Bestial Turbo.
And we're picking up our cards.
Wow.
Only Bestials are enough to defeat Nicolas and his Branded deck here. 1-0 for Gabriel Susi. Last year, top 8 at the World Championship in Japan. Do you remember what he played back then? Completely different.
Was it Plants?
It was Plants,
yeah.
Absolutely. Which was quite exciting to see, because a player of his caliber then picking up that kind of a deck really, to me, was the final sign, okay, Plants everywhere, Plants are the deck. And still to this day. Have you seen any Plants this weekend, though, at the top tables anywhere?
I think I saw 1 or 2.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Jessica isn't here defending the European title, so that's most likely not going to have a greater representative. But I did see a couple of them. I don't know, I think probably in the same boat as every other deck, this format where everyone is playing a bunch of hand traps. Plants sometimes have a bit of an advantage because, you know, your opponent doesn't hand trap correctly most of the time. But yeah, Gabriel, again, a Swiss Army knife of Yu-Gi-Oh! He is such a capable and talented duelist, being able to show that he can play Snake Eye really well. He played Saladin Great all the way to the European Championship. He won, right? Yeah, in 2019.
Yes, he did.
So he is also a European champion. He's played all different styles of decks. And yeah, really puts in the time and effort in trying to get rewarded this time around. And you mentioned a little bit as well before we started how some of the players who are in the playoff that didn't make the Worlds, spot have actually got quite deep runs currently running in the tournament. True. And again, that's, I guess, when you prepare so much for that World Championship playoff, that's going to translate really well into the main event, isn't it?
It's just logical, yeah. They are the ones that prepared the hardest because they had that shortcut with the points playoff. So they now just have to go the long way. So sometimes there's just the feeling, okay, I could have done it in 5 rounds, but now I will have to do it in 18 or something like that through the main event, just going all the way and make it that way. I mean, we had plenty of examples in the past where that actually worked out, right? We had multiple people not making it through the playoff and then going through the main event. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gabriel Susi, of all people, it would be another example for that for this weekend.
I mean, it is just like the mark of a true champion, isn't it? When you play, you try, you lose, and then you try, and then you keep going, and then you keep going, and then eventually you get the success, right? That's what they say, like the masters failed more times than the novice has ever even tried.
I'm still at the failing part. I wonder if Susi's changed his list a little bit, do you think? Because when you play like such a concentrated tournament of high caliber players, do you think maybe sometimes certain non-engine choices can change a little bit when you go into a main event that's significantly larger?
You would expect so, I would say, right? But I don't like judging at the list that I'm seeing here. It does look quite similar to the one we saw on Friday, to be honest.
Well, one of the interesting points, sometimes players differentiate between decks where they want to see if they can make it into the top cut versus players who want to build decks where they think they really want to get far into the top cut and win. So if you're building a deck, I mean, obviously the goal for all of the players, well, not all of the players, but maybe definitely a player like Gabriel Susi is to make it to that top 4. So maybe he's going to gear his deck and say, look, maybe I'll have a harder time in the earlier rounds, but I'm going to build my deck as if it's already in the top cut. And I'm already playing that hyper-focused meta, and I'm going to just build it the same as I did.
Yeah, the logic idea is that, when you're playing in a larger event with significantly more spread of different themes available, you might find that your side deck options change. You might be considering things like Lightning Storm Duster, which a lot of players just opted not to side deck at all in the playoff. Yeah. That might be a little bit more of an important choice to have in your side deck when going into the main event, which is a little bit of a differentiating characteristic here. It looks like our players, by the way, are just about to start game number 2. Let's head on over to the table and see how this one will unfold.
Game 1 heavily dominated by Bestials. Is Gabriel going to find these one more time here in game number 2 as well?
I'm trying to stare at his hand here and see if we see an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is really the main defining factor.
For sure, that helped.
Yeah, Branded just looks so underwhelming if your fusion doesn't go through, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the 3 Bestials have got to help. I mean, Gabriel is running a lot of Bestials, but I mean, it's a lot of Bestials compared to other people. It is only 6, so he needs to draw 3 of 6 in his opening hand, which is pretty good against Branded, I'd say.
Absolutely.
I feel like Nicolas has opened the branded fusion, and I think he's trying to think of plays without just immediately dropping it.
And what's the first card we're seeing?
Yeah, he's just
typical
gonna go for it.
60-card branded deck, opening branded fusion back to back.
Please don't have it. Please don't have it.
And Gabriel's thinking. I mean, if you have the Ash Blossom, you're dropping it down. Yes, I think we're resolving.
Yeah, there's no like, there's no consideration.
There's
there.
no metagaming behind that. Yeah. Oh, do I Ash that? Yeah, you would. You would.
60-card deck, opening branded fusion twice. You know, sometimes I think branded players, they just defy mathematics, don't they?
Yeah. They work around it. I mean, Tom, do you have a mathematical explanation for that?
Yeah, it's because it's ultimate rare.
Ah, that does actually make sense. Now I have.
You just
now
get to start with it in your hand if it's ultimate rare.
Speaking of ultimate rare, I think we sent an ultimate rare Fawn of Albas there as well. That's also very typical for branded players, to be honest. Just going higher rarity, kind of being with the deck for as long as it is now viable in the meta game. So Nicolas probably a big fan of the strategy now for quite some time, and now maybe this weekend with the pinnacle of his success. Ooh, and there's branded regained. That is a card he was able to include into his main deck while not going after the Gimmick Puppet, which is quite surprising.
Are we going to say that about every card?
Yeah,
Why he chose to
kinda.
play this rather than Gimmick Puppet? Like, really?
What you'll find is Gimmick Puppet, I think, aggressively has been considered the best way to play branded for sure. You know, even some branded players find the frustration of, well, you know, unfortunately, it is just kind of the most optimal way to run it. But Nicolas here again, as mentioned, not playing the Gimmick Puppet and just opting to, you know, get this far into the tournament, just running a fusion strategy of big monsters. And it's been working out really well for him as we set up a Mirror Jade here into a normal summon of Alibur.
I mean, in this matchup in particular, not committing heavily into a Gimmick Puppet is probably going to be beneficial because there's an awful lot of Bystials in the deck for Gabriel, which are kind of prime answers to the Gimmick Puppet. So
it's a very interesting meta point you bring up there, actually. Because of the surge of popularity of the Bystials due to the Snake Eye Mirror, Branded gets caught in that crossfire. Therefore, putting all of your eggs in the basket of a Gimmick Puppet lock could be considered suboptimal, right?
Yeah, I do agree. And it looks like we almost opened the same hand that we did in game one, right? There's Fawn of Albas in there as well, Brandon High Spirits. This time around, we're going to send the Titanic Lad from our extra deck, though. So that's a bit of a different line. And we do get to search out the Cartesia once more. And Gabriel, so far, has not really shown any interest in interacting with Nicolas, but maybe there's another point of interaction with a Bystial Baldrake when the Cartesia is activated, because for some reason, and we're still trying to figure out why, that was the moment he decided to do that there. Oh, look at that! Baldrake, even before he could activate the Cartesia this time, going after the Fawn of Albas.
I'm a little confused by this again, but I'm sure there's some reason for it.
Well, the Baldrake would be kind of inconsequential when you fusion summon when your fusion summon starts with Lebellion rather than Albion. So Nicolas choosing to, I suppose, play around the Bystial there by not going into Albion instead. We've got the polymerization on Cartesia and Alibur coming down here next.
Oh, I mean, now it made perfect sense, because Cartesia wasn't able to special summon itself anymore, as there was no Fawn of Albas in the graveyard, and that's why we preemptively activated the effect of Baldrake, preventing the special summon of Cartesia, which was then pretty smart, because we just had to activate the polymerization to fuse from the hand, and we couldn't capitalize on the on-field effect of Cartesia there.
But did he know the he didn't add Cartesia?
He did. He just did that through Branded and High
Oh,
Spirits.
okay, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
All right.
Going to see that this is going to be a significantly more powerful field here since the Branded Fusion has resolved. We're going to have Mirror Jade, the Grand Gondola, as well as the setup of potentially a Branded in red or Banishment. Does he play Banishment, the trap card?
I don't think he does.
He
no.
doesn't? Okay,
Surely
so
he can't play Banishment if he's not playing Gimmick Puppet.
We're in the end phase. Look at that. Of course, Titanic Lad this time around, able to special summon out, guiding Quem, the Virtuous. And Nicolas, the Branded Virtuous, is going back to his deck, resolving the Albion as well.
just love Gabriel's body language right now. Like, just leaning forward, just observing.
I mean, that one Baldrake really did a good job. Like, it is a decent field that we see here, but it's also not overwhelmingly strong, if you ask me. I think this is something that a good and decent Fiends of Snake Eye hand can technically break, especially if you maybe have another Bystia to interact with that Branded and Rat there.
Branded's always a bit sneaky, though. They always seem to do a little bit more than you expect sometimes. you kind of look at the field and you think that's not that much, and then somehow like more monsters just keep appearing from the deck and the grave and the hand and the extra deck all at once.
I think the biggest frustration sometimes I find against Branded is when you are starting to pick apart and clear their field here. Unless you specifically, you know, finish them off on that turn, it's quite annoying to deal with Mirror Jade, because if you set up a bunch of, you know, make a field or anything, the Mirror Jade will just destroy your field in the end phase. So you have to deal with it in a very specific way to make sure that it doesn't trigger in the end phase.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the end phase, we just used the effect of Mirror Jade there to banish in the end phase on the Baldrake. That sent Brigand, the Glory Dragon, to the graveyard. That then triggered the Quem, of course, to summon out Khadija, and the Brigand then on top of that searched out the Mercurier as well. So even though it didn't look that scary and it felt like the end of the turn, we did plenty more to back it up now. So we have Mercurier and Khadija on top of things now.
Lubellion now, or not Lubellion, even Mirror Jade is even more powerful, I guess, against Snake Eyes, because players are only running one copy of the big Flamberge Dragon. So if you can banish that one copy, it probably limits quite a bit what the Snake Eye deck can actually accomplish.
Yeah, but we would need to somehow recycle the Mirror Jade before doing that, because this turn it will not be able to activate its effect now.
I believe in Nicolas. I reckon he can do it.
I mean, he has Branded in red as a tool to do that. Also, of course, now Khadija in the main phase, able to use its quick effect to special summon out a fusion monster as well. So let's see.
Snake Eye Ash into Poplar, starting things off very strong on Gabriel's side here, despite the lack of hand traps, really. I think when you play against Snake Eye, you sometimes can expect 2+ as a standard to come down against you. But just a singular Baldrake in both games here. In fact, the Baldrake and Ash Blossom being enough in game number 1, just to show you how powerful these combinations can be specifically against Branded. But has a good engine opening comparatively to last game here with our Snake Eye Ash for Poplar for the Divine Temple.
We're fusing away our Mirror Jade now together with a Tragedy from hand, summoning out Magnum the Reliever. Honestly, a card that is not seen that much in regular Branded builds, but Nicolas is relying on it heavily here. I mean, they are usually including it as like their 14th, 15th spot in the extra deck, but as we can see, Nicolas not only in game 1, but also now in game 2, summoning it out here pretty early.
And here comes the Mirror Jade back. He didn't believe in him to get it, you know, recycle it.
You are so right.
It's been recycled in just a second. No, it comes back with the Quem.
There it is. You're so right.
I think he can summon it again with the Levitum.
Yeah, you're completely true.
It's really crazy just how much of the recoverability you can have for your Mirror Jade. So bringing it back with Quem here to then use its effect. Mirror Jade is once, I think, while it's on the field, and then you can fuse it away again for the Brandon red, go for a different fusion, potentially Chimera, then the Ad Libitum that's searched out here, then triggers when it uses fusion material to then bring back the Mirror Jade again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's once while it's on the field, and well, you can use it once, and then it stops you from using it the turn after. But then you can use it, so it's once every 2 turns while it's on the field. But
it does have to be said that if Gabriel has another Bestial, that's going to really hurt Nicolas's turn here, because I think now the disruptions are very heavily focused on resolving this Branded in red.
Oh, I like this. We're immediately going after the Temple, because Temple against the Brandon strategy actually is pretty good, because they, as we were just explaining a lot, are summoning a lot on the opponent's turn, trying to recycle monsters such as the Mirror Jade. So having that monster in the spell and trap zone while Temple is face up is really scary at some point.
I think I do see another Bestial in Gabriel's hand, so he's chosen not to just use it straight away and banish the Mirror Jade, and instead hold it for the Branded in red, which seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do. However, now it can be hit with the Mercurier that's in Nicolas's hand.
Okay, there comes
very good point. Yeah, Mercurier was indeed searched, and that's something that we're going to have to try and deal with as well.
I was thinking, like, there was actually a chance to use the Druris Worm while there were no fusions that mentioned Fallen of Albaz, and I don't think you can Mercurier in that situation.
True. We're now sending Rinbram to banish the Snake Eye Ash. But as you were saying, usually going after Flamberge sounds pretty promising, as you can't really recover that powerful monster from your banished zone.
Choosing to keep the Poplar in the scale and sacrifices the one in the hand here. Loving the mix-up of QCR and Ultra Rare from Gabriel, by the way, of the Poplars.
Here we go with... Is there an Albaz for the Rinbram?
There is indeed an Albaz in the grave.
Yeah, because one got banished, but you think another one made it to the graveyard.
Oh, that is a good point, actually.
Original. And Nicolas maybe going for his graveyard now as well. Let's see together. Is there a Fallen of Albaz left in there? I think there's not, right? We go with the Tragedy. And Gabriel, he does probably have a Bistia to answer this, but as we were already seeing, there is, of course, the Mercuria still waiting in hand.
Yeah, it's just so much stuff comes out of this branded deck when it's being played by a good player like Nicolas. You look like there wasn't very much on the field, and then all of a sudden more and more interruptions just seem to appear out of thin air.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge here. The branded in red will resolve as you are witnessing right now, because the Mercurier is protecting the branded in red target from being banished by the Druid's Worm. And now we can make 3 materials here. It looks like maybe a Chimera.
That would always be Guardian Chimera. There it is. And as we used 2 monsters from the field, we will also be able to destroy 2 cards. And the Ad libitum is going to bring back the Mirror Jade. So it only feels like we used 1 monster on the field because the other one immediately was replacing itself. And it's also replacing itself with the ability of using its effect again now because, yeah, it's again there. New Mirror Jade, totally not the same one than before, but able to activate its effect again.
Gabriel's in a hall of Mirror Jades.
Oh, and of course popping the Sinful Spoils set from the Witch here. And the Witch herself as well. And after all is said and done, as mentioned, you still have a Mirror Jade left over.
Okay, Wanted is a way, of course, to get another Witch, but that already was used, that already was summoned this turn, so that would only be a resource for the next turn, but still Wanted could be activated in the graveyard, of course, to get an additional draw. Ooh, we didn't even go after the Black Witch. We actually decided to search out the other Diabellstar card, the Snake Eyes Diabellstar with it.
Yeah, this is nice from Nicolas, right? He's just counted the number of monsters that Gabriel can summon, and it's just not going to, like, he's got an answer to every single monster Gabriel can summon. The only way he can get another monster onto the field now is with the Fiendsmith Engraver.
Oh, wow, that's a 1-for-1 draw. That is absurd. Wow, we can summon out a Oak from the deck here, potentially.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
super
indeed
powerful.
very strong. 1-for-1 as the one draw that he got off the top there with the Wanted, discarding the Snake Eye Diabellstar and bringing out Snake Eye Oak. And that is a card that is not that easy to deal with because, yes, it is a monster you could banish with the Mirror Jade, but as he's activating the effect right now, it obviously is going to bring another monster with it. So now it becomes a lot more difficult to deal with this.
Yeah, I was counting my chickens there. I thought Nicolas had it all sealed up, but I was not thinking of that 1-for-1 draw.
How many did you have?
How many chickens?
Yeah.
A lot of chickens. I thought Nicolas had enough to win the game.
You should have rather had some snakes, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of snakes here, the Flamberge coming out is going to be quite powerful, but I'm just worried that because we still have a Mirror Jade online, it's going to act as a bit of a choke point, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel's got to figure this out, right? Because if he goes straight for the Flamberge, that Flamberge is getting banished and it's never seeing the light of day again. So you've got to think about what to do here. Can you force out the Mirror Jade while still keeping enough monsters on the field to stop anything else from happening?
I think we're definitely going to probably see some Fiendsmith plays, right? Go for the Closed Heaven. Do a bunch of Fiendsmith stuff, potentially use the Requiem equip to try and maybe send the Mirror Jade. Then Oak can use its effect to send the Poplar Skilled and go from there, I think is what I'm sensing here.
If you go for a Fiendsmith line and your Fiendsmith Engraver just gets banished after it's summoned off the Requiem, then you're left with a lone Oak.
And the Poplar.
And the Poplar.
And
for
then
the Flamberge.
Then you get a Flamberge, and then what does Flamberge do by itself?
Yeah.
I mean, we
that's
could
true.
also maybe go for Dark, which would provide us extra monsters as well, as we already have a Dark monster on the field with the Anima.
Well,
And
the issue with Dark is that it is a cuttable card since the extra deck is so tight. Is Gabriel siding
He
or
is siding
He is
into
siding
Dark,
it? That's
yeah.
really important.
But
yeah.
we start things off by using the Snake Eye Oak. So I think Gabriel just trying to get that Mirror Jade banish out of the way as quickly as possible and then reassessing what to do after that, and maybe from there on going with the couple of options that he has left. For example, that Dark potentially. Because Nicolas, if you see this Flamberge here, honestly, in his shoes, I would probably always try to go after it.
I mean, you have to banish it, right? Because otherwise the Flamberge will just get rid of the Mirror Jade.
yep.
Yeah, you can force
but there's Fallen of Albas in the graveyard still, so we can just go for the Rindbram effect in the graveyard too. Look at that.
Yet another interruption.
Ooh, Branded Retribution discarded.
Discard too, you're right.
It's going to be a good resource for next turn here.
And
we're chaining Mirror Jade, it looks like.
Nicolas had even enough to get through all of these things.
Okay, so we're banishing our own Mirror Jade, so that the resolution means that Fallen of Albaz can then summon a new Mirror Jade to then send it back.
This is so funny. Banishing our own Mirror Jade just to have the chance to summon out another one, and then the Mirror Jade is going to banish the Flamberge Dragon as well. Gabriel Susi clarifying, scooping things up. Branded and Nicolas taking down game number 2, equaling the score here with a very, very unique approach to the Branded strategy. But as you could see, working out quite nicely. How many Mirror Jades was that in that turn?
I don't think I've seen that many Mirror Jades resolve in a singular turn. That was genuinely incredible.
At least 4, right?
Yes, that was a lot of Mirror Jades.
We need a bingo for that. Five Mirror Jades in a turn.
And I think the most important thing as well here is that while you get to remove the bodies, especially the banish being a hugely powerful, important point, is Mirror Jade loading up your graveyard with all of those resources that then trigger in the end phase to get you a bunch of searches, special summons, and then give you an insane amount of follow-up on turn 3.
Absolutely. And we've been saying it plenty of times before. If there is a deck that can work through fields just with their engine, going second, it's usually Branded. Branded is so good at that. Just playing through stuff, keep on going with just one card, accumulating to so much gas, just playing through stuff like even a full Snake Eye Fiendsmith field. I can see it here with 60 card Branded all day.
Yeah, but is Gabriel going to let that happen? Is he got something sneaky in his side deck? Is he going to bring in maybe a different dimension ground that he can search off an Angel of Blue Tears? I'm not sure what his...
That package is indeed not in his
not
extra
there.
deck. Looking at his side deck, there is not that many going first options in general. I think he kind of went with the approach of having Crossout Designator as a tool going first, which is only, of course, very applicable to the mirror match, though. For the Branded strategy, he didn't really see that one coming.
I can actually see basically nothing in his side deck that would have application for the Branded matchup, and I think this is most likely going to be his card-for-card list from the playoff. From what I can tell here, because it is completely focused on the mirror match. And again, Gabriel's goal is not to, just top. It's to get a very deep run into top cut, which makes sense. But a barrier to entry for him is going to be Nicolas here on Branded specifically. And we mentioned as well about how Branded can play going second through a bunch of fields. And I think what you'll see is that that is very true in the approach, because Branded generally doesn't play, a ton of hand traps to try and prevent your opponent from establishing that field. Quite the opposite. They tend to go with a lot of field breakers. What kind of options does he have in his main deck?
In his main deck, interestingly enough, there aren't that many, but then in his side deck, there's plenty of stuff coming in. There's Dark Rulers, there's Droplets, there is Triple Tactic Thrust as well to access the Dark Ruler and also access Triple Tactic Talons, which are also in his side deck.
Or Branded
Apparently,
Fusion.
like, all of his side deck cards are just going second cards, and he really tries to make up for that lack of going second cards in his main deck by siding them in, and he may as well then just draw them here in game number 3, of course. And one card also that has been seen a couple of times already throughout this weekend, but and usually it was close to timeout, is Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. But in general, against Branded, we saw how many monsters we're summoning. I don't even like it outside of the timeout scenario, because just getting ahead so much in life points against Branded is actually quite valuable.
They have lots of attack points, those monsters. You're not summoning like little 800 attack Snake Eyes. No, these all have 3,000.
That's the thing. So I could actually see Gabriel just bringing in the Spooky Dogwoods here.
This is a random side note. I really like how Nicolas is siding Shaddoll Dragon, just because when you have like a deck like Branded that has a generic access into your main deck via Branded Fusion, it's really cool. That just gives you a little bit of crossover for different matchups, where you can go Branded Fusion, send a very old school card at this point to then hit something like a Floodgate against Horus decks, Kashtira decks, etc. So
I mean, probably going second in general, right? I think siding in Shaddoll Dragon might even here in that scenario become the case.
It's definitely a crime to side it in without Shaddoll Fusion, though. However, it looks like the players aren't interested anymore in what we have to say, and they're ready to start their game number 3. So let's head back over to them.
All right, here it is, game number 3. Gabriel Susi versus Nicolas, and it's going to be, I feel like, potentially quite a deciding match here, because if anyone who loses this is... Do they still mathematically have a chance to get through?
There is a very small chance, but I think I would rather avoid taking that chance, and therefore Gabriel will try to do the absolute best here. Going to go first, and I mean, he of course has a couple of options, a couple of tools in his extra deck that would also give him an early advantage in terms of life points here, if he does get to that point, with of course Fifinsmith's Lacrima.
Now, what do you think about the approach to this turn here? Because Gabriel's probably aware of the fact that Branded plays little to no hand traps. Do you think you still respect Nibiru? Do you think you respect Bestials?
I think you do absolutely not respect Nibiru. I think in a 60-card deck, which is also on top of that Branded, which usually doesn't go with the approach of going with hand interactions, you just completely go all in here. You just go for the biggest combo you could ever perform and just disregard any kind of interaction. Of course, there might be a singular Bestial because they do usually play the good old Saronir, but besides that, I don't think you have to really worry about anything.
Notice here as well, I think the Divine Temple scale the Diabell Star from the hand.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Oh, wow. That's not ideal. But, you know, regardless, your Snake Eye Ash Blossom is... Snake Eye Ash Blossom, sorry. my head's getting mixed up with these this Branded matchup. The Snake Eye Ash, just as a one-card combo, is going to be really formidable here and put up quite a multi-layered amount of disruptions here. And I think one of the coolest interactions that I think that Desiree offers you as part of the end field of this combo is... We know that Nicolas is playing Dark Ruler. So if you have a way to chain a non-monster effect, you can then chain the Desiree to then negate the Dark Ruler.
Yes, absolutely true.
I mean, it is a lot of fun. How do you... What has Branded set up that's a non-monster effect? Not Branded even. Snake Eyes. You're confusing me too.
Snake Eye? You could have an Imperm. You could have a Cross out if he's bringing that in for going first. A Wanted, potentially, if he doesn't need it. There's a couple of other like non-monster cards you could use in tandem with that. I feel like he should be cognizant of the fact that Dark Ruler, evenly matched, those type of cards are going to be potentially quite... Wow, we've opened both Flamberge and Snake Eye Diabell Star.
Was that from hand as well? Oh my, that's horrible for Gabriel. I mean, it will still end up with your regular combo, as you are allowed to summon these from hand, but that just means you have 2 less cards in your hand, as you had to use them from your hand there. And those could have been those cards you could have set there to avoid getting hit by Dark Ruler or more, to play around it, but not like that, because chances of having those cards in your hand are now diminishing.
It doesn't look like he's got enough Light Fiends in his graveyard to go for the Desiree line.
Not yet, not just yet, no, you're right. Look at that. Okay, we're going to fuse, going to use the Moon of the Closed Heaven and the Requiem, and that is going to mean that Fiendsmith's Lacrima is going to come out, and it's going to be probably right after bring back the Engraver as well. There it is.
We still haven't used Tracked, right?
Yeah, so it looked like he just added the Engraver straight to his hand rather than special summon it to the field.
True, true.
Now you can search out the Tracked.
Yeah, so this should, I think, provide the required materials.
Yeah.
We'll go for the Fabled Lure now, being able to search and discard for effect, not cost, by the way, just as a relevant point of interaction in some other decks, potentially. So we special summon it back to the field to give us more bodies here. And again, not respecting Nibiru, just doing the fullest, biggest combo that you can.
Yes. And I think that is so correct. Like, you can't really, for the off chance of them having maybe a Nibiru in there, play around that in a 60-card deck. Even though they were successfully opening Branded Fusion in back-to-back games in 60 cards, I don't think you can ever account for that in that kind of a strategy, in that kind of a matchup.
Yeah, I think the bigger decks, as in bigger in size, 60 cards, you tend to run less hand traps. Although having said that, it's very difficult to like have a good read on what could be in your opponent's deck, because they can just put anything in there by the time you've got to 60 cards. They've got to fill out some extra slots.
So there is now the Promethean Princess going to bring back...
Can you check if Gabriel does play Desiree?
Yeah, he does.
He does?
Absolutely.
Because I know that that's sometimes a card that Snake Eye can cut potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's definitely playing it.
I mean, multiple people, even for example, Baptiste Owen, I think on Friday, which qualified for the playoff, did not run that card, for example. So there definitely was some discussion going on. So some of his French friends have decided not to run it, but Gabriel himself is still going with the Desiree. And I think in this matchup specifically, it's going to be very, very valuable to have access to that card.
We'll see just how good Branded is playing into a typical field here. Banishing, generally quite a bit of a nuisance for the deck if we go for this Masquerena into SP Little Knight. Promethean Princess destroying, maybe not as detrimental to your deck. We'll see what we can come up with here as we've got an odd field, right? Missing a Flamberge here.
Yep, okay, and so with 6.5 minutes left on the clock, Gabriel doing 1,200 damage points to his opponent's life points. So Nicolas down in life points as we speak, but still Gabriel also almost done with his combo, I would say. So that could absolutely be enough time for Nicolas to start playing into Gabriel's field. Maybe get an early Masquerade out there, which would also be helping to lower the life point of Gabriel, of course. So let's see how this one goes. It's definitely not over just yet. Celine coming next. And yeah, of course, Appaloosa is great against the Branded deck as well, and that is probably what we're going to go after here. Yep, that is Celine bringing back a Spellcaster and immediately also summoning out the Appaloosa, only with 2 negates though.
So what you'll notice here is Gabriel has performed his combo in a way where he's placing the Flamberge in the spell and trap zone rather than leaving it on the field. This means that if Nicolas does have a Dark Ruler no more, he can't really afford to just immediately use it because anytime that Nicolas then summons thereafter, Gabriel can summon the Flamberge from the spell and trap zone and then use its effect to then summon the Masquerena, and that's going to act as even more disruption with the Princess, the Masquerena, and floating. So
yeah, but just imagine Happiest Feather Duster coming down here and then maybe a casual droplet being chained to it. That would immediately answer everything here. But what does Nicolas have? In the main phase he is. And that main phase is going to be also important for him here. What's the first card? Is it just going to be Branded Fusion again? No, it's right for a Patchwork, which is going to net him a card advantage. You're getting 2 for the price of 1. But is that going to be what helps him to play through this field? Because I think you are going to need one of those breaking cards. It needs to be Dark Ruler or Droplet or Frost, I would say.
He definitely needs to keep an eye on the clock here. He's only got 4 minutes left and he is below 1,200 on life points. So a very powerful card, Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon, in time, but unfortunately if your opponent doesn't do anything, then it won't inflict any damage to your opponent, so got to keep an eye on that.
I think as well what you'll notice is the 11 minutes is the marker where we began this duel, and we're already down to 4. You just sometimes just don't realize how fast these duels can play out here. You can see we're setting a monster here
I like
as we are about to perform a fusion summon of Guardian Chimera here.
And I mean, we played around the temple with that quite nicely, because the temple could only trigger on a normal summon of a monster or a special summon. Setting is not included, and therefore that is going to be the first thing that we do, summoning out a fusion monster here, which may as well be the Masquerade, which then would be a dangerous game for Gabriel to activate monster effects from there on. Okay, that is a tragedy. What else is there?
So I think that this actually creates such a interesting dynamic, because by playing around Dark Ruler, Gabriel has sort of indirectly put himself in a bit of a bad spot against Chimera.
Oh, it is Guardian Chimera indeed. And we can even chain block the Guardian Chimera here, because there was the Tragedy use. Chainlink 1 Guardian Chimera, Chainlink 2 Tragedy. This could be very, very good here for him. And also, please note, the Desiree can't work here against the Chimera because it needs to target the Chimera, and it cannot be targeted here anymore. Wait, no, the Desiree doesn't target.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
You're right, so he could actually do that.
But one thing to make a note of here, the Guardian Chimera has got 3,300 attack points.
Fair.
And that Appaloosa is standing very proudly in attack position with only 1,600. So
absolutely.
if you can just go to the battle phase and attack, then that'll put you ahead on life points, which is absolutely
there's something
massive.
changed. Oh, there's the Forbidden Droplet on top of things.
Wow.
But we're sending away the strong attack points of Guardian Chimera here.
Well, we must have a really, really important couple of cards in our hand here to send away the Guardian Chimera, because as you mentioned, just entering the battle phase and attacking over Appaloosa, especially if you droplet it, is going to put you further ahead than the Lacrima Burn has. And with only 2 minutes left on the clock, that might potentially end up becoming a win condition of this matchup here, as we summon out the Flamberge from the Divine Temple. The Desiree tried to negate the Chimera, and then we chained the Droplet, so we're going to then resolve the Tragedy Search, I think, or the Edgem Chain Search, and then we're going to resolve the Chimera.
Yeah, it's interesting there. I mean, maybe you just can drop it, just negate the temple, and then you get the attack over Appaloosa, and you just get it. That's all I'm thinking when there's 2 minutes there. It was like, just get ahead on life points.
I think the issue you need to think about
anything.
is that after you've done that, can you play for 2 minutes?
That's true.
That's the thing. And I think one of the cards we just picked up there with the draws of Guardian Chimera was a Talons. Yeah, that of course is huge.
And
first of all, Brendan High Spirits. And Nicolas is so chill. Does he have the time in mind? 1.5 minutes. You're down on life points. You got to make things happen here, Nicolas.
I mean, just activate the talents, take the Desiree, switch to attack mode and attack.
Yes!
Stresses me out when you're watching the time, only 1 minute left.
Dwindling away on the clock here, down to almost 60 seconds. But yeah, I think at any point, Nicolas is able to just bring out a big monster and attack over that Appaloosa. The Flamberge getting destroyed, by the way, by the Guardian Chimera, as you might have noticed. Because that's happening mid-chain on the resolution of the Guardian Chimera, please note that we can't chain the the Snake Eye Flamberge to summon the Masquerena. So Masquerena is not going to be a point of interaction for this duel.
It's so many things happening now, though. 45 seconds. Does Nicolas even get the chance here to do damage? It's going to be so close. Gabriel quickly resolving the effects of his Snake Eye monsters, which is very nice of him. Bringing back the Poplar now on top of it too, though. There is the Coritas. So many things happening.
He just needs to enter the battle phase, right?
Just declare, reduce everything to 0, and then attack. This should be enough. This is 25 damage we have on field with 20 seconds left.
It's going to be another photo finish here in round number 11.
It literally is a photo finish as we resolve the effect of Poplar to search. Open game state time, declare Coratus, attack for game, single-digit seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds.
There's a back
That's fine, just attack. Just go to the battle phase. Is it enough?
Yeah, it is enough.
Are we in the battle phase?
Who knows?
We are in timeout.
That's it.
I'm
it's
not
time.
sure whether we are.
Is it battle phase? Is it end of main?
Does he get to go? I mean, I guess sometimes... Yeah, I mean, we've got some judges watching, so whatever's supposed to happen will happen correctly in this situation.
You could say end of main phase, activate Druid's Worm to special summon Resolve, but I don't think that's enough of a play to prevent the battle phase from actually being entered. We'll see how the judges rule this specifically, because the Druid's Worm isn't really actively achieving much. You can see now that a judge discussion is happening during this point here, because again, all Nicolas has to do is attack into Appaloosa, and it's the end of the game. So yeah, we're gonna have to take a little pause here as the judges discuss whether or not Nicolas will be entitled to enter his battle phase despite the end of main phase declaration of Bestial Druid's Worm.
Yeah, I think for that moment, let's bring it over to us already while the judges are handling that situation, and we can then have a couple of words, because was it even necessary to activate the effect of Coritas? Because that was just kind of time wasting. Also, Nicolas, through the last 2 minutes, he looked so chill. He didn't look like he was stressing at all, but he should have been stressing, because he could have, like, if he stressed more, I think there was a possibility of just already being in the battle phase, to be honest.
We also have a Talents in hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and Talents could have just take the Desiree switch, just do the quick thing, I don't know.
Exactly, just do the quick thing.
I'm watching it, you just get so stressed when the time's ticking down. I mean, for us, they're looking at this nice display. We can see the time ticking down, whereas the players might be focused on the game. They might not have the clock in the forefront of their mind the same way that we do. So,
I mean, they do have a big clock just next to them. Don't wonder about that. But definitely, of course, sometimes you're just so focused. You have 60 cards to hold in your hand as a branded deck, so you may have just all the work with that alone, so you aren't able to also process what's going on with the timer as well.
We're waiting for, and just so you guys at home know, we are waiting for an update specifically on what the call is going to be for this.
Absolutely.
And we'll give you an answer in just a moment. But yeah, again, for those of you who are just tuning in, watching us right now, this is the EU WCQ World Championship qualifier of Europe. We are in round 11. Both players are currently XO2 with 2 draws, meaning that this is a really...
Actually, they have 2 losses. Just wanted to correct you there. They have 2 losses, yeah.
Oh, okay, 2 losses, yeah. So this is a really important duel here. It looks like that we might have an appeal here coming in.
Okay.
So yeah, this is going to be a discussion about whether or not during the end of time procedure, are you allowed to enter the battle phase when your opponent is declaring and resolving effects like your Druid's Worm summon? Is that enough, of a meaningful advancement of the game state to warrant the pause before entering the battle phase of just attacking over the Appaloosa. That's the situation we're in currently. The players are at the moment on a standby here as we try and get a head judge over to facilitate the situation and figure out, is this, because it's a very important moment, because someone's going to lose this. This is not a draw situation. Someone is going to be the winner by the end of this.
Totally.
And the loser will most likely not make the top cut spot.
Absolutely. And you got to understand that, of course, feature match or not, you always have the right to appeal a decision, and it's very good right as well. And I think I would always try to make sure, if I'm questioning something, to get my second opinion on that, to get the head judge involved. And so I think I can already see the head judge being at the table in that situation is handled properly. But let's just, while they are doing their decision and they are going to take their time for it, talk about the branded deck in general a little more, because branded had a good showing here. They are maybe even going to win that featured match, but do we think it's going to be enough to maybe also sneak in a spot here in the tournament and make it to the World Championship with the branded deck? Because, I mean, throughout the season, branded did perform really well. I think over, for example, in Oceania, we had someone qualifying with the branded deck in second place in their qualifier. We, of course, had your UK National Championship being won by branded. So is it a deck that you can see winning here this weekend, or at least getting to top 4, I guess?
I mean, it's one of those decks, as you say, it's never been the most popular deck, but it's been cropping up. It won the UK National Championships. We saw it in this feature match. Like, obviously it's down to time now, but I would definitely say the branded deck is in the driver's seat. Were it not time, I mean, it's always fun to hypothecate on whether, you know, what would happen if the game wasn't a time. It is a time, obviously, so it doesn't matter for the outcome of the match. But when you're thinking about testing, when you think about how powerful the deck is, looked like he had a pretty easy time breaking through this field of Gabriel. So
yeah.
Just so you guys are aware as well at home, before or possibly at the start of Top 64, we will also try and bring you a deck breakdown,
of course,
and give you an idea as to what the current situation is in terms of the meta. I'm sure you're all curious as to just the breakdown of the decks themselves. What have you guys been seeing as you've walked around top tables? I've noticed there's been a surprising amount of Ritual Beast at top tables.
Same. I absolutely saw that too. I also saw multiple Kashtira players, like not Kashtira Snake Eyes or anything, but actual pure Kashtira decks doing kind of well too, being still in the tournament, which surprised me quite a bit. And they took like more of a, I want to call it, basic approach to their game plan, because they were including cards like There Can Be Only One, Rivalry, Skill Drain. So I can see how they had success throughout that tournament so far.
Yeah, just players who have been asleep for a year. They thought, what was the best deck last year? All right, give it to me.
Why not again?
Let's make that Kashtira deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, also, I think I saw multiple Memento decks as well. We had Memento on feature yesterday. I think you talked to Richard after, and that was a display of Masterclass with the good old Memento deck. And I think one of your other friends is also really, really underway with it, Vlad, I think.
Yeah, Vlad is, shout-outs to him. He's currently X1.
Wow.
So I think he's all but locked for top cut. At this point, so yeah, Memento is also definitely going to be in the top cut. Shoutouts to him for performing with that.
For sure.
I saw a Drytron player at top tables.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he lost the last round, but he was around about the X1 or X2 region. So Drytron, you know, new support with new 2 and the new Ritual Monster as well.
Yeah. Indeed, New2 was, I think, even I looked at his list, he's playing 3 New2, so he's really also making use of the new support, which, to be fair, is quite strong. So why would you not include it? Just that extra monster you can bring out, I can totally see it. And therefore, they are also still in competition. Also, we saw a couple of Runic decks. Actually, he was off to a pretty bad start, but then we saw that Vincenzo Orofino is also kind of rebouncing, and Vincenzo Orofino is playing one of those Runic decks this weekend. And it seems like we do have now a final decision on the table, meaning we have decided the outcome of the match. Let's just quickly confirm.
All right, we're getting an update from our judges right now, as we say, just so those of you at home who have tuned in, essentially what has happened is we have had a flurry of plays occur for Branded. Branded chaining Droplet to negate Appaloosa, reducing its attack, negating it, putting it to 0. Before the end of main phase, as time is called, Koratis is activating its effect to reduce. Valor was chained. Resolution Drew's Worm is chained to special summon. All of this in the end of main while 0 seconds are on the clock, not meaningfully advancing the game state enough. Therefore, the judge has ruled the battle phase will be allowed.
We are in the battle phase, and therefore Brandon will be able to attack and take down this match. We see Nicolas being the winner of this feature match, winning it 2-1 by attacking there over the Appaloosa, dealing enough damage, and therefore coming out on top here over the big Gabriel Susie. And therefore, yeah, he's going to be moving on with the Branded deck. So we have been talking about it, that it was enough. He did win it. So fantastic stuff from the Branded deck.
All of this could have been somewhat easily averted, as you said, just by Talent's Desiree attack.
Yes.
But again, so just for those of you who are sometimes there's a lot of misinformation sometimes with specifically this exact interaction. If time is called and you have declared end of main phase and your opponent has a bunch of cards to resolve that don't meaningfully change the game phase, you will be allowed to enter your battle phase. That is the official ruling that has been given here. So
here, yeah.
Yeah, in this situation at least, you know, obviously always check with your head judge, depending on the event, depending on the situation. But that is actually what has occurred, and Nicolas will be attacking with the Karatas for game over Appaloosa. And unfortunately, sadly, commiserations to Gabriel Susi. Someone did have to lose this game. He will be most likely out of the tournament on an X3 record. Small, slight chance potentially, might still play on, but yeah. That coveted World Championship spot is looking very far and distant. We have a huge amount of action still to come underway, actually. There is, well, a bubble match next round, right? You guys excited for that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm excited to see maybe another one of those lower represented strategies maybe making their way to the featured match again. Let's see what's still out there. Maybe something we haven't seen at all yet. I think there are a couple of people really doing some fancy stuff out there. And I mean, also, of course, one person that is always very much asked about is going to be Dinka Bui, which we saw yesterday also in the featured match. And he moved on with an X1-1 record after the last round, so he's definitely absolutely doing well still. So we may see Magical Musketeers, not in the feature match next round, but maybe in Top Cut, so that's quite exciting as well.
Yeah, we've had a fantastic variety of decks. I mean, obviously, people have been talking a lot about the Snake Eye Fiendsmith deck. That was 25%, which is a big share of the deck proportion, but once you go after that, you've just got so many other decks. I mean, you have the Ubel deck, you've got the Ritual Beast deck, you've got the Memento deck, you've got even the Branded deck. There are so many different decks, and that other category was, what, 43%? So anything, nothing was above 2% after Memento, so there's a huge variety of decks going on.
Yeah, basically everything and anything could still make it in. 64 spots open to be taken. Of course, a couple of people now with the second to last round already kind of booking their ticket into the Top Cut by already being only with one loss or maybe even undefeated. I think the undefeated duelists before this round were both Fiendsmith Snake Eye players, if I saw that correctly. But also, someone we had on feature in the last round of yesterday was Julio Valls with Ritual Beast. We talked about it. That deck is really performing well. He also won the first round of today, so he should absolutely be locked up for Top Cut as well. So he's having quite the weekend too.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to play with a bit of an unknown deck and just go in and perform like that, especially on the feature match. It's got to be a great experience for the players.
Absolutely, very enjoyable for him.
We've seen some exciting stuff, as you guys have mentioned. Yeah, lots of different archetypes and themes being played all throughout the weekend here. We are just basically waiting for an update to see whether or not we will be giving you a player interview. And of course, the post-match analysis that we've had set up over this weekend, I think, has been a great addition by production. So, you know, big shout outs to them. At the end of each round, you will have a player interview, and then you'll also have a couple of play-by-plays analyzed by one of us as the commentators. So hope you guys have been enjoying this new edition.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, give feedback where appropriate. I think it's
absolutely. Let us know in the chat.
I think it's been a great addition just to really get into the minds of the players and ask them specifically, you know, why did you do this? What was this exact moment about? How are you feeling? And what was the plan there? How's that been for you?
Yeah, I've actually been really enjoying it. I was about to say, it's so nice to just sit down with the players afterwards. You can ask them like in depth, because we have our opinions. Obviously, we're watching, but we're not the ones playing. We're not the ones making the decision. We can have a think about what maybe was going through someone's head as they chose to do what they wanted, but to actually hear it from themselves makes all match better. So let's see if Ed can take it away and tell us about what our players were thinking.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, I'm joined by Nicolas here, who's just won that round 11 feature match, and that now means your 9 9 and 2, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's very good. How were you finding that feature match? The feature match is a very tense time for players. How did you find it?
Maybe it's only me, but I'm not stressed during the feature. That's a positive point. But I have to admit, in the end, with the appeal and everything, it was really like a lot of stress.
So talk to us about your perspective at that ending, because people at home, the commentators went through what was going on, but how were you feeling in that moment?
I think he misplayed, because if he used Princess with a Velo in hand, I would never have time to go to battle. But since he used Velo and Druidstorm, that did not matter for the game states. I mean, it was clear that he just did action just to make actions which didn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my point of view at least.
Okay. And so thinking about this, let's talk about the games that you've had other than this, because you've now won 9, you've got 2 on there. What were the 2 losses against?
One against Tenpai,
okay.
My mistake, and one against Baptiste Derouin. Yeah, I can't beat him. He's too strong.
We've seen Baptiste in some of our world qualifier points, Jules, so people would have already seen him in action. So how are you finding Branded against this current format? I'm guessing pretty good, considering you've won 9.
To be honest, no. It's just the deck that I'm the most confident with by far. It has been 2 years that I've been playing the deck. But I think the deck is really hard in this format because I know 2 really good Bonner players and they didn't even make it to day 2, so that means a lot. The deck is really tough in this format.
Well, that's fair enough. I think we're hearing that pairings are soon going to be going live, so we will be letting you go so that you can go and get ready for your next duel.
Thank you.
Congratulations, well done. You've done a great job. I hope that the next final round of Swiss goes well for you. Perhaps we'll be seeing you in the top cut with your Branded deck. We'll touch wood there.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Nicolas.
Thank you.
Guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to have more content for you, and hopefully very soon, your round 12 feed.